ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Two Fat Guys Talking Flowers, where we're always going to give you the good, the bad, the ugly about flowers. I'm Fern. We got Joelle on the ones and twos, Mimi in the house, Mike is somewhere in the house, and our super sweet world travel businesswoman at heart, but an artist on demand guest is none other than the Holly Haveman, co-owner of Kennedy's Flowers.
Woo-hoo.
What
you
are
can
doing?
also add there whoa, that's a long applause. You can also add there Olga's BFF, because Olga loves Holly. Me and Olga had
Who
so much
doesn't
fun.
love
I know
Holly?
everybody loves Holly, but because Holly speaks Spanish, Olga's like obsessed with her. She's like, "Tu viste que puso a Holly? You saw what Holly posted the other day? Holly was here. Holly's there."
That is the sweetest thing. I know. We became instant amigas when
Yes.
I started to habla en español with her.
Because she wasn't expecting it. She
Right.
was not expecting it. It was funny, but it was great.
Full of surprises.
I love that. I love that. You were just somewhere. Where were you? You were just in Mexico. How did that go?
Oh, I was. I like to take a Spanish-speaking trip every January. It's kind of like my reward for making it through Christmas and that holiday season and kind of pre-Valentine's. So typically after Atlanta, I go somewhere, like I said, Spanish-speaking, and then come back and nose to the grindstone through Valentine's. But Mexico was awesome. I went there to see the monarch migration, the
Oh my
monarch
gosh,
butterflies.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of been a bucket. Like I live a bucket list life, but this is kind of a bucket list year, and I've wanted to do that for a long time. So flew into Mexico City and then rented a car and drove out to the monarchs, and then had a little waterfall time because I love nature, and then kind of came back.
Very nice.
amazing.
Very nice. It's amazing.
Yeah, I
out
actually
there.
took you guys with me because I had a lot more car time than I was expecting. And so I downloaded podcasts because there wasn't really signal for a fair amount of it. And so I was listening to you guys, and you were talking about with that author who had the book about like the old New York.
Mhm.
And something that really stuck out to me was when Mike was talking about like those super tall lilies. And then I thought of you guys because I went to the flower market.
What'd you
and
think of the flower market out there?
it was, I was going to say kind of messy was the first thing that came to my mind, but it was full, just like they had smaller head roses than I was expecting, but just roses stacked on roses, almost like building blocks.
Mhm.
Tons of like really tall lilies, sunflowers, a good mix, but definitely heavy on the roses. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
No, they grow a lot of flowers out there. It's really impressive the amount of flowers that they're growing nationally
Yeah.
in Mexico.
And they grow for Mexico. So that's really good.
Yes, exactly. It was super cute. I like to talk to people and learn a little bit more about like what area they were coming from. And this one girl, she was very knowledgeable, and she's like, "Oh, like you guys buy Ecuadorian roses though, and wow, those are really beautiful." And I thought she is spot on. And she's like, "Oh, they have such big heads." And I was like, "Yeah, they do, So she knew what she was
That's
talking
good.
about.
They know their competition and their market. That's awesome.
Another
Yeah.
market that's like that, that's huge. Have you been to Brazil?
I haven't been yet. Oh,
They say the
huge
Brazilian flower market, the one in Rio, is amazing, but they also produce for local, for their nation. So they don't. I mean, they import
They
too.
produce,
but they
produce a lot
don't
more
export
national, yeah.
a lot of the stuff that they make. So that's what's really cool.
I
about
just
that.
found out that Brazil, now that you bring that up, Brazil has like a flying spider season.
Oh yeah.
So
Wow.
I'm not going to that.
make sure you know when you're going. Make sure
I was gonna say,
you know when
pick
it's
a
not
different
spider
season.
season. I take
No,
on a lot
thanks.
of things. Flying spiders is not one of my bucket lists. It's more on
the
the
only
nightmare.
animal that I want to see that flies is the flying squirrel.
flying squirrel. You took it right out of my head.
You can jump on
No.
me, but all those bugs you can.
So there's
stay.
nothing more hilarious than watching a squirrel fly from tree to tree
Oh my
because
gosh, I
at
love
first you're
squirrels.
like, did I just see what I thought I saw? And then you look up again and you see it and it just flies to another tree and you're like, yep.
Have, So you've seen it,
Yeah,
Fern.
yeah, I've seen
So
it.
have I.
It's the
It blew my
coolest thing.
mind.
Where in
It's
Costa
the
Rica?
coolest thing.
Where'd you see
No,
that?
in Michigan.
Oh,
I saw it in Chicago, and it was literally in the backyard.
Wow.
Yes.
I
I've
was
never
like-
seen the flying squirrels.
Like it caught my eye at the side of the eye. I was like, what was that? And I was like, it didn't look like a bird. And then you just keep staring and you see them fly to another tree and you're like, holy shit.
Kind of like those building jumpers when they have, the
yes,
suit
with the
and they
big
just-
suit. Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
exactly.
brave people. Let me tell you, I don't know if I'd trust any of that kind of equipment.
No.
No.
No, not after. I mean, just with all the travel that we have to do lately. Like
There's
this
just
morning,
no jumping off
Oliver was
a
watching the
building.
news, and I'm like, "Please turn off the plane crashes. I'm doing 4 plane crashes."
Oh, yesterday it was in Toronto.
Yeah.
The plane
Yeah.
that flipped over, and I was like, "Oh man, change the channel."
Okay, well, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Holly.
Holly, I know you've traveled the world. I know you've done a lot of things. I've had the pleasure of having a lot of conversations with you. You know, fatties, Holly was on early on. She was in the episode with the Prez, Niggy P, but she never spoke.
Because
Holly,
it was the one at SAF, right?
yes.
Yep,
Right.
right
so
after SAF.
yes.
So we were hanging out, and she hung out in the podcast. She didn't speak, but she hung out with us. So Holly's
I feel honored to be
me and
there.
Holly goes way back, man.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
an old school fatty, guys.
Well, I was on a panel with both of you guys
Yes,
separate
yes.
last summer.
Separate
So, I
panels.
mean, we run
We're
deep
family
in many
now.
ways.
We're family. So you gotta tell us. You gotta go all the way back, and you gotta tell us. Come on, Holly. Where did you come from?
Oh, so my roots are in flowers. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we have a flower and gift shop called Kennedy's. And I've been around the flower, like in the floral industry since birth. But then I went into kind of more of like a Fortune 500 type business.
Wait, what generation are you now?
So my brother and I are just second generation
Okay.
for our family, but the business has been around longer than our family.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I studied supply chain management at Michigan State, and I put that degree to use for a little while, worked in pharmaceutical and medical device industry, and used that really to travel around the world. I worked around the United States, and then that took me down to Costa Rica. Put that degree to use for a couple years, worked with, the big industry, and always knew I wanted to come back to our family business. And the timing kind of was right. And my mom knew I was thinking to quit corporate and travel the world. And kind of with perfect timing, she saw this ad in a floral magazine for a group called the World Flower Council. And they were having their summit in Croatia. It was 2014. And it was kind of like one of those perfect synchronicity type things because I didn't even tell anyone, but Croatia had been coming onto my path, at least 3 times with different things that really intrigued me. And then she said, hey, Holly, would you want to go to this World Flower Council in Croatia? And I was like, say less, let's do this,
That's
So it was
awesome.
right when I ended my corporate job.
What
Then we went
What year was this?
2014.
2014.
So I stopped in August, and then the summit was in September. And we went, and it just blew my mind. It was so cool. The theme was when East meets West. So there was a lot of like Asian design and Western design, and then talking about how they kind of mix.
Nice.
And I got to work with a lot of like floral greats from Holland and learned about different growers and just really expanded my mind. And, florists and flower people are good people. So
Yeah.
it kind of made my mom feel better too, because she knew I was going to start couch surfing and travel the world. And so she's like, well, at least you're going to meet a whole bunch of florists in the area in case something happens.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I dipped my toes into like leaning back into the floral industry. And then in 2014, I studied floristry at the Southern California School of Floral Design with Phil Rouloda. So that's like
Awesome.
in SoCal, renowned great. And I studied it because I thought, I might put it to use as I travel. And so I started to just travel for fun, incorporating flowers. Like the World Flower Council, they'd have at least one annual summit. And
It's still going on, right? The World Flower Council?
so unfortunately, they just disbanded at the end of
No.
last year.
Boo.
I know it's so sad. It was formed in the 80s, and so they had 40 years, but really COVID was kind of its downfall.
How do we bring
Um,
it back?
I that's a great question. I think it's going to take form in a different shape now. It's kind of more design oriented. We'll see what happens. Originally, it was like really heavy in the United States. And then I think as like AIFD and SAF kind of took more interest for local or domestic people, it became heavier and like World Flower Council became more popular in Asia. And, just things changed. But really, COVID, when it stopped the summits from happening for a couple years in a row because,
Travel,
internationally,
right?
difficult to get people from different countries to be able to come to a certain place. So yeah, that was a disappointment, but it was a really fun 10 years of floral travel. And I still am enjoying the contacts that I've made through that.
So, was that where you were in Colombia with the World Floral
Yes,
Council? You have to
yes,
share this
exactly.
story with the fatties and with Mike and Fern. So she
Hi,
shared.
Holly. I'm sorry I was late. I was putting out a fire.
It's great to see you, Mike. I understand it happens.
You got to share this awesome story. It was with Renee Van
Oh,
Rems, right?
yes, exactly. I'll tell you my most mortifying yet
It's
memorable
not a
story.
mortifying. It's the sweetest. I love
It
it.
is sweet. I like it.
Oh my
Go.
gosh. No, it's funny. So, in Colombia, I think this was the second summit that we had been to. And it
So
had been
this is
over a year.
like 2015, right?
Yep, exactly. So it'd
Okay.
been over a year since I left Costa Rica. I had been mostly traveling in Europe and whatnot, so I hadn't been using my Spanish as much, but I had gotten really good with Spanish through living in Costa Rica for 2 years. And we're at the summit, and it's a cocktail hour. I'm talking with Renee and like the leaders and just whatnot. And Renee mentions that he doesn't have someone to translate for his class, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm signed up for your class. I can help, no problem. Classes are like 20 people, and I'm already in it. I had no problem doing that, so we settled on that. That's great. Fast forward to the next day, and Renee takes the main stage. Suddenly, I'm being called up to be his translator in front of hundreds of native Spanish speakers. And the guy who introduced me, the chairman at the time, introduces me as, "Hey, this is Holly Haveman. She's lived in Costa Rica. She's fluent in Spanish." I would never, ever, ever say that. Like I'm super conversational. But anyway, so what do you do when you're getting called up on stage in front of hundreds of people? I guess you go. So I went up on stage
I love it.
and I'm like, smiling. I'm like, and I am pretty good with Spanish. And so I'm like, okay, I'll give this my best. And Renee, right before he gets started, he leans over to me and he's like, "I'm not going to take any breaks." And I'm like, okay. So first off, I've never translated before. And if you can maybe kind of manage or like imagine, but let me paint the picture. So someone's speaking, and Renee, if you've ever met him, he's charismatic and funny and makes jokes and like fast talking and whatnot. He's a great presenter. So I'm trying to remember everything he's saying and simultaneously translate it in my mind and wait for him to finally take a tiny pause so I can like regurgitate what he said and do my best to translate it into Spanish. Um, However, he's also like making jokes, which don't really translate very well from language to language. Or, even like just describing things. Like I remember there's like a fluffy sunflower, and he's like, "Oh, like a teddy bear," or like, and I'm just like doing my best. And like I say, I gave it a B+ job, but I was just like, oh my gosh, I was out of my league. So finally, some of the native Spanish speakers were like, this is not quite cutting it. So we joke, I kind of got the cane. I'm like, tap out, like, but I'm still like smiling because what are you going to do? And
But
yeah,
yeah, you were cute with like tijera or like the words for the tools and stuff that you were.
oh, what I was telling like Mimi and Olga is the words that I didn't know then are like emblazoned into my memory now,
Forever,
You'll
forever.
never forget them.
Well, I had learned how to speak Spanish in the medical device industry. I didn't know technical flower terms. So like wire or bouquet, like things like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was all good. And Renee, for years afterwards, he's like, "You're such a rock star." Like he just loved how I handled it with grace, because what else are you gonna do? but it was
You are a
very
rock star. You belong on that stage. I know Fern and I definitely agree that you just hold your certain grace and your holliness. I don't know how to explain it. It's just this like a pure fun emotion knowing you're around Holly. So I can't wait for your next gen. So this will come out. We will be Friday before next gen when this comes out.
Friday before everyone travels, right?
Right, because it starts on Sunday.
Nice.
So for all those fatties headed to next gen, Holly is speaking also. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they invited me to do a little session on like wellness. And I'm going to, it's just 30 minutes because, making the time for it in the morning is sometimes tough. It's like 8:30 to 9 on Monday, I think. And I decided to share something called Savers. Have you guys ever heard of that? I'll give you a quick briefing. So it's kind of fun. The industry looks to me as someone who really embodies like work-life balance. And I've worked hard to be able to do that because I believe in work hard, play hard, but you've got to, as they say, put your oxygen mask on first before you can help others. So it's like, you got to take care of yourself. But anyway, like mental health and just mindfulness have been really important in my journey. And being kind of a goal-oriented person, something called Savers appeals to me. And I learned it through a business group that I was part of. And it's an acronym. It stands for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And that's something that I do every morning. And the cool thing about it is you can make it as short or as long as you want to give it time for. So I thought with 30 minutes, I can share it with our next gen group and just have us put it into practice and hopefully something you can take home with you.
Yeah. It's amazing because you balance it. You are seen in the industry as somebody who can personify that, but you also work in a family business. So like to me, it's interesting with when you say work-life balance with family, it's hard to turn off, like, you know what I mean? The conversation. I mean, so you're probably, who's the easiest to talk to, your mom or your brother?
Oh, I mean, my mom. I'm like a mini
Well, who
Lori.
Who will turn off the business talk better?
Oh, that's an interesting question. When I first moved home and became part of our business, I went through an adaptation phase. I don't call my mom at work. I call her Lori because I want it to be professional. But when I first moved home, I was actually living at home for a little bit. And I remember thinking, like, is my mom, like, I want her to still be my mom because I'd still call her Lori at home. And it's a good mix now. But that was also tricky. And sometimes even outside of work, knowing when to not talk shop or just have our family relation rather than constant business.
Yeah.
So we figured out how to navigate that throughout the time. And what's interesting is my brother just got married in October and his wife, my sister-in-law, is now part of our business.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she's joined on and she's in training to take over my role as design manager because she's managed restaurants in the past and she gets it, wants it, and I know she can do it. And one thing I just want to be mindful with her is when we hang out outside, sometimes I'll have ideas and I might want to talk with her, but I just want to make sure she doesn't feel the way sometimes I used to feel with my mom, like, I don't want to talk about this right now,
So you can't help that. You can't help it. You're like, the people you're most comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it is such a big part of our lives. Yeah. So we've just kind of learned to ask, hey, is it okay to talk about it right now? Or do you want me to check back in later? Or at least I try to do that. And, there's some times where my mom she is much more on the retired track now. But a couple years back, she would just breathe it, talk it, live it. And I'm like, hey, shut it down for a minute. Like, just be my mom,
Not possible.
You're right, Mike.
Do your team members say Lori or your mom? Because to me, when I'm talking
I used to
Ryan,
call my dad Eddie.
When I talk to Ryan about Mike,
really?
I try.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
when I talk to Ryan about Mike, I try so hard. Like in the beginning, I made it such a point. Like I'll be like, Mike said, and then every once in a while it'll come out like your dad, and I'm like, oh, I feel bad saying it. Yeah, but it's hard.
It's really
I feel you
tough
with
to
that.
separate that.
And it's a mix. I get both. But I would say a lot of people say your mom.
Yeah.
But it is a mix. It's kind of interesting when new people start. I don't always just like tell everyone that we're related. Like they can kind of figure it out, but we will just say what our roles are. I mean, it is a family business and they do kind of know, but maybe sometimes we don't do a good enough job even saying like, oh yeah, Nick is my brother. Who knows what? Cause like I remember someone had worked with us for a couple of weeks already and I was like, okay, bye, love you. You know? I mean, I'm full of love, but I mean, I love him because he's my brother.
So you went back. How was your transition leaving corporate and going back to work with the family?
It was rough.
But was that before, that was right after Costa Rica, or did you do Australia?
So I traveled for 3 years living out of a backpack, living nomadically.
It was 3 years, Holly?
3
Wow.
years. It was fun. So I would tap back in and I would work from like Thanksgiving to Christmas. And then I'd go do the buying with the team in Atlanta in January. And then I'd take off for my next 6+ months. So I would tap back in. And I honestly almost saw my family more when I was living abroad and traveling than I did when I had my corporate job because I had a little bit more flexibility with time.
Mm.
But yeah, so I lived abroad for 2 years. Lived all around, again, using kind of those World Flower Council meetings as a springboard to different regions. And then I did work with flowers in Singapore as well as Australia because I did want to come be part of our family business eventually. And I wanted to see how they did it in other parts of the world first.
Very good.
Great education.
Yeah, best.
So
Yeah.
what year was it when you moved back? It was what, 2017?
It was, yeah, 2017. And when I said it was rough, I think it was rough probably for a variety of reasons, you know, just getting back into
Traffic.
kind of American way of life.
A routine. You were
Traffic,
getting back into a routine.
The commute to work. You know?
Ours wasn't too far. We only have about, 10, 15 minutes, thank goodness, which I'm really grateful for. But my mom had never really been the type to like hold meetings officially, or she's never been very formal with things. She's an excellent, excellent businesswoman, and I've learned a lot from her. But something that I have brought in was a touch of my corporate way of life, like, standard operating procedures, like meetings. I mean, we still aren't meeting heavy, but we have at least like one annual meeting a year and things like that. But anyway, I came home and she and I knew that I was coming to eventually kind of replace her as like the visionary and whatnot. But everyone else kind of was like, who is this and what is she doing? Because not everyone knew me. Like a lot of people knew me. We had a lot of long-term employees, but then there were some newer ones. And one person in particular felt extremely threatened by me, and it was our design manager. And it was such a shame because I think she thought I wanted her job, and I didn't. She was doing great. I would have loved her to still be there, to this day. But I came home in like August, and by February, I think that following year, she kind of quit and bought a competing flower shop.
Wow.
So, or no, not by February, by April. It was April 1st, April Fool's Day. She let her whole team know. They all thought it was a joke.
It's a perfect day.
Yeah, but it was tough because no one was really prepared or informed as to kind of what my role or journey would be. And, we didn't exactly have a clear-cut plan because that is part of a small business is you do have to be adaptable and ebb and flow and whatnot.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was tough.
And that was the year that you guys won, that Kennedy's won Retail Florist of the Year from.
Yeah.
So that's fun. So you came in and it was already like doing great, and
It was. Yeah. I'm so grateful. My mom, like I said, she's an excellent businesswoman, and I constantly am in awe of our team. Like we're just always growing, working to be better. And I'm so grateful. I mean, even just this past holiday, I had some like lovely, you don't always get like recognition, and you don't do it for the recognition, but like my team really acknowledged me like, wow, Holly, you make this so smooth. And I was like, oh, thanks. And, my mom too, she's like, you do such a good job with this. And I was just, oh, thanks. You don't always hear it.
It is nice
and
to hear
I'm
once in a while,
great to hear
grateful.
It's nice to hear that once in a while.
So how was Valentine's? How did it go?
It went so smooth. We were technically down, but everyone was talking about like the industry being 20% down, and it wasn't nearly down like that. It was it was a bustling holiday, but it was so smooth, like, and in terms of buying, spot on, not the next day in the cooler, you almost wouldn't have known there was a holiday. Like
nice.
Everything sold perfectly.
Did you have any weather challenges up there? I know that there was a snowstorm that came across.
That's the hard part about Valentine's Day is the weather. You can't leave the flowers when it's snowing or freezing out. And 2 days before, so I think around the 12th, it was pretty like snowy and icy. 13th was a bit dicey. The 14th had cleared up significantly. So it wasn't terrible. It went well, but it was snowier than any year we've really had before. I mean, since me and my brother have been in charge.
I saw on the Florist of Facebook, somebody posted, okay, it's over. Tell me what you would have done different, or are you saving or writing down what went well, what went wrong? And is there any tips or anything that you noticed this season, this Valentine's, that you wrote down or remembered?
I'll always. So I keep a little journal each day of like who worked, anything that was really selling heavily, or like just things to keep in mind. And actually after this podcast, that's what I'm going to be working on, is writing down all my Valentine's Day notes and like my what to do next year. Because everyone had like been talking about it being perhaps 20% down, I didn't order as heavily for the week as I have in the past. I have in my notes from last year, order 1,000 red roses for the week of. And I didn't do that. Like I didn't buy, I do a mix of buying direct from farms and buying from wholesalers because, I want to support our wholesalers and keep them around. But I also have made nice connections with farms around the world, and their quality and the freshness is incredible. So I do a mix. And I didn't do that box of 1,000, or that, several boxes of 1,000, whatever, to get to 1,000 roses. So I did have to buy like 600 red roses literally on Valentine's Day. And we went through almost all of them. Wow. So,
Nice.
that does affect my bottom line because they're not at the exquisite price.
Weren't at the right price.
No.
It was market, and the market was really hot.
Exactly. So that was, a pain point, and something I'm just going to remind myself, like, hey, just do it. Even if it's not 1,000, 800, whatever. I do typically err on the side of buying lighter than buying heavier. And I think it's because my first Mother's Day that I was in charge, I followed the notes of my predecessor and I just ordered exactly what she had ordered, but I didn't understand the game yet. Like I didn't realize that 2 arrangements that were part of her mix were not part of mine. And so I just remember swimming in certain flowers afterwards. And I just don't want that. So, we work with a perishable product. And although you can carry some over, I really want to stand behind the freshness of what I'm selling. So I don't like it to carry over for too long.
That's one of the best things about flowers, is that customers have to continuously buy them.
I know. You know that when I was at Chrysler, I used to have people say, I don't want my flowers to last long. I need them to come back and buy more flowers. I'm like, that's a stupid way to think of it. Like, you want people to have
you want people to have an amazing experience and come back and buy more flowers.
Well, and people always ask, like, how long are they going to last? And I've kind of taken to telling them, it's like a good meal. Enjoy it while it lasts. And then I might follow up with a little bit better answer because people don't like how vague that can be. Controversial
speaking, as everybody saw the Drew Barrymore interview with Chris. I think his name is oh gosh, now I have to come back and look at his name.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, I don't know who it was.
His name is something with a K. Kristen. I think his name. I'm not sure. Now you don't quote me.
The guy with the hair.
Yep.
Yes. And he was on Drew Barrymore, and it was very interesting to see the types of people that were behind his answer and people that were against it. So a lot of people, he kind of, Drew Barrymore's co-host asked him, you know, what can I do to make my flowers last longer? You know, I've heard different wives' tales, bleach, vinegar. What can I do? And he goes, no, like, these flowers are supposed to be like dying. There's, you know, like he put it very beautifully, and if you want, we'll put it in now so everybody can hear it. But the internet has gone like crazy, like some very pro him and some very against it, and it has been fun to see.
Listen, it's very simple. It's like our truck says. Our flowers will last forever, or they will die trying.
Guaranteed.
That's it. We have a truck running around Miami that says that.
I've seen it. I love that slogan, to be perfectly honest. It says it all.
I got that. I didn't invent that. I got that from Kenny Yadri.
Who's Kenny Yadri?
Kenny Yadri used to sell roses in office buildings. He was part of the...
Like Henny Mac?
Exactly. He was part of the original Roses for Recovery crowd. So there was people recovering from different dependencies were given an opportunity by my dad's first boss here in Miami to take a box of roses, go out and sell them, make themselves some money, and then come back the next day, pay for your roses, and take another box. And then guys like Kenny, they built up these routes, or Henry. I don't know if Henry was part of that crowd, but I know Kenny was. And they developed these routes, and they would go every day to a certain place, and it was expected that they would kind of come in with roses. And he got one of those guys that he talked just like Rodney Dangerfield, you know? The same voice as Rodney Dangerfield.
That's funny.
He's from Brooklyn and all that. But he gave us that. That was his tagline. He would go into the office buildings or the car dealerships where he would sell the roses, and he would tell people that his roses will last forever or die trying. And I loved it. And then Ryan made it a T-shirt, and then we made it a truck.
So awesome.
So yeah, it's
That's one of my favorite T-shirts.
Because you've heard, like, put an aspirin in.
Yeah, so
Flowers are not supposed to last. I know. Listen to me. Listen. They're not supposed to last. Their job is to help us to stay in the present. Oh. Okay? They grow. They grow. It makes me feel better. Yes. They grow. They blossom. They thrive. And then they're gone. You have to stay in the present. You have to stop. You have to be in the moment. Otherwise, you're going to blink. And what's going to be happening? They're going to be gone.
I absolutely agree with that.
I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I mean, I did see a lot of the florists getting upset because they do so much to make those flowers last. Like, the process is intense.
I don't think Holly's ever gotten a call saying, "Hey, Holly, thank you so much. My flowers didn't last."
Exactly. This is what I'm
right?
talking about.
I don't think so.
People were saying that.
I think there's an expation for whatever reason. It's 7 days. I don't know why that
is the expectation.
I know that was created by the supermarkets. The 7-day guarantee was created in Europe from the supermarkets, so they would give that 7-day guarantee. I don't know,
That's interesting. I think about that all the time, and I've settled on kind of 5 to 10 days. And I mean,
depends on what it is.
Depends on what it is.
It's a hit or miss.
It totally depends on what it is.
And part of our talk when we're at Next Gen is that the amount of work that goes into those boxes of flowers, and then at the end, that one stem. Like, it depends. It depends. Did you buy it all depends. Everything is like, what if, right? But those growers work really, really hard. And I know Holly works really hard. Like, everybody has their process. And sometimes you get surprised. How many times do we see people sending us messages? Your roses lasted 14 days. That person also took out the and cut the bottom, and they put their work into it too.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing pisses me off more than people complaining about the vase life, and then you look at that green guck that the poor flowers are sitting in. It's common sense.
Green duck?
Green guck.
Oh, guck.
Yeah, like
not a duck. Guck.
My mentor used to call it bacteria soup, and really, it's like, would you want to drink that? No. So the flowers are going to continue to die because you're just creating bacteria up in the stem.
It's also different products. Don't don't last that long.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I just don't think you can put a time expectation on a beautiful moment.
I also tell people, like, take out the ones that are not doing well, that are wilting, but don't count that as the whole bouquet or the whole arrangement. So once you take out that one and then whatever, you're going to have the foliage still looking good. You're going to have some, like the astros. There's so many flowers that are going to outdo that. And then you are going to have
an educated consumer
Right.
would get way more out of their flowers
hell yeah.
than, somebody not educated.
Yeah,
right?
but if a
try and
consumer
educate.
spends money on something, and they probably spend real good money on Valentine's on some flowers, there's an expectation for them to last. They don't want to wake up the next morning and see the heads bent over, even if they didn't cut them, even if they didn't do it right.
Mike, I'm going to tell you how he told Drew Barrymore, you have to hold my hands like this, hold my hands. And he said, the flowers are doing the job. Let's live in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's
Give me
true.
my $100 back.
No, $100 back. You're paying for the flowers
You're paying
to
for
give that moment.
so much more that the florist
so that
has
the
done.
person you give them to is like wowed when they receive flowers.
Listen, if when I get flowers, just the idea of somebody thinking of me, it to me is worth more than $100. Like that person showed that they love me
priceless.
that day. Whether they, bought it at last minute or they took 4 months to think about what my favorite flowers are. But I think it's a beautiful sentiment.
You buy a carnation and you don't cut it, you don't treat it right, you stick it in water, it's still going to last a month.
I know.
I know.
It's
so sweet.
It's all about which flower it
That's
is
why I
and where
also
it came
like
from and its
Astros, too.
genetics.
Like in the house, I mostly buy, I'll buy some Astros, put some Cymbidiums, some stuff like that I know that it's going to give me that. And then I like to add other stuff around it.
I received a couple flowers from someone for Valentine's Day just as like a sweet gesture. They knew they couldn't come to my store to get them for me, so they just got them somewhere, and they picked out Fuji's and carnations. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. They're bright. And I have them sitting in this little vase, and I bet you anything they will still be looking fantastic when I come home from Next Gen.
And
Got that right.
Not just that, but that fact that they went and did that, even knowing that you're in the flower industry, because a lot of people get intimidated. They're like, "Oh, I'm not going to buy you flowers if
You're in the industry.
You're in the industry.
Yeah, I
you
can't
probably get
send
them
you
free.
flowers."
No, we love flowers too. At least I do.
I always laugh after the holidays. I kind of take home the rejects, It's like, were they not perfect? Were they kind of bruised? Those are the ones that end up on my table because, they deserve some love too.
Absolutely.
It's just like what you were talking about. Through all these travels with flowers, visiting farms and like, going to the airport with Next Gen and things like that. I have such an appreciation for all the work that goes into getting us our stems that we get to work with, design with. There's a lot of people touching it and a lot of energy going into it. And it's like, oh, I don't want to just toss it aside,
Right. So after Next Gen, are you going to Michigan? You're going to.
Yeah, the Great Lakes.
I always call it the Great
Floral
Lakes
event.
Floral Expo, right? But what is it?
Yep.
They call it Gliffy?
Yeah, but they've started calling it GLIFE because that's the acronym GLFEE,
Uh-huh.
Great Lakes Floral and Event Expo. I was the chair for it last year,
I
so now I'm the
know.
past
Nice.
chair. So I kind of just
Congratulations, because you guys are killing it with that
Thanks.
show. We haven't been, but I'm telling you, like
Good
I
one.
went to one years
What are the
ago,
What are the dates of that show?
right after Next Gen. Like,
Yeah, it's always the first weekend of March. So this year it's technically February 28, March 1 and March 2, I believe. It'll be a great show. I'm excited for who will be there. And then they're doing something kind of fun, which is tours of flower shops. So we will be one of the stops for people to
Nice.
come and see. So I'll tour people around. But yeah, it's I just remember going right from Next Gen last year to Gliffy, and I was very involved with both. And this year I will still be involved, but it's not like quote unquote my show. I'm just a helper. It's a good one, you guys. If you ever get the chance, I know.
what
you
happens
support
to
in a
us is
variety of
we
ways.
do Next Gen and then we do Wolf's Up, which is that Monday. So it's really to add Gliffy would be crazy, and we have such great representation in that area already.
Correct.
So yeah,
Correct. We have great customers in that area, so it makes it tough.
Sure thing.
Have you ever
No, you guys
visited
do a lot.
Lynn Mayer's Great Lakes Glads farm? Have you ever been there?
No, I'll put on my list. I'm
I
curious.
went there
Any-
last summer. It was cool. It was really cool. Impressive.
Nice.
Huge gladiolas for miles.
Wow.
Mike
Yeah.
couldn't.
Lynn
Mike goes,
Myers, you said?
yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Cool. Yeah, I like to visit flower farms of whatever variety. We buy local when we can, but obviously in Michigan, the season isn't super long.
Yeah.
And we can't, get everything we need to sustain what we sell on our website and in our store. So it's a mix. I always, one of my favorite things, being like a person who loves to travel the world, we have this radio station here in Grand Rapids, and their tagline is "A world of music all in one place." And I've taken it and I've adapted it for flowers, and I say "A world of flowers all in one vase," because you can they
What's
account for a
that
lot of
one
different
flower
countries.
spot that you've traveled to in all the millions of miles that you've traveled? What's that one flower spot that just wowed you that you just will never forget, and that was an amazing thing to see?
I think probably this is, from living and working there, but I really loved working in Melbourne, Australia at a place called Flowers Bassett. They just blew my mind. Like, they'd buy thousands of dollars worth of flowers at least a couple times a week. And they had it all arranged, like color blocked in vases in their store. And the front of house, which I was front of house, we would twist up bouquets for customers coming in. And then the back of house did beautiful arrangements. And I did visit the flower market in Melbourne, and it was crazy because people go at like 3 a.m. to buy the flowers, which is different than what we do here. I don't know, I guess how it is for you guys.
Well,
But-
that's how it was in New York when Mike
And-
was in
and LA
and
too.
LA and
Yeah.
San Francisco. So the cities
big-
that have
big-
the big
big
markets, it's early in the morning. Like
Yeah.
only people up are people buying like fresh seafood or fresh meat
Fish,
and
yeah.
flowers.
Yeah, that was my favorite to go with my dad also. My dad owned a grocery store. So I used to go to Jetro and like all the wholesale places with my dad in the morning. And he would wake me up at 4 a.m. to go do that stuff. And I was always like, but why? And it's because you're going to get the freshest and you're going to get
Yeah.
your
You
relationship.
get the first pick. You get the
And
first
he
pick.
also had to go buy pastelitos and stuff to give to the people that would help him out. You know what I mean? Like save him all the good stuff. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. The owner of Flowers Bassett, her parents were in like fresh produce. So I think that's kind of how it transformed into what she ended up doing. But that's a good parallel there.
Yeah, I want to have Craig Musson from Wayfex, Australia, on the podcast. He gave me his book.
Oh
I
yeah,
have his
during
book.
the show in Ecuador.
Yeah, he gave me his book. Gave me another signed copy. I have another book. I have a few autographed books by people that I think are flower heroes. And it's
So
pretty
cool.
Yeah.
I would love to go to you guys' farm sometime.
Oh. Holly.
Through-
Holly, I think you
through
need to do
the-
a book. I think you need to
Yeah.
do a traveling with joy book, but with flowers too. Just what did you say? A world of flowers in one vase. I love that.
Yeah, you got it. Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I have a lot of stories to tell.
I'm sure you have a ton of pictures too. I would love to know your storage. You use Google Photos. What do you use?
I gotta be better, to be perfectly honest.
Oh. You were in the
Yeah, but
moment.
yeah.
You were in
iPhone.
the moment.
Well,
No, I take a lot of pictures, but I mean, I just have like a phone with a lot of storage on it, and then I
Yeah.
honestly filled up my last computer, and
it's
just-
you lose it's not really that you lose them, they're somewhere there, it's just hard to
I think
find them.
about constantly. I think about all the photos that I've lost that I have no idea where they went. It's like
Every
why
time
took
I
them.
fly, I say I'm going to organize my pictures.
And you never do.
And I
it
never
gives me
do.
a headache to organize.
start
them.
watching
It's
a
very
movie and that's the end of
stressful.
it.
It's very stressful moment.
Oh, Mike, I used to say the same thing, and I used to do it, but now I've got on your train of watching a movie.
Yeah.
Well, the airport is such a stressful process to get in, everything, to get through security
I got used
and
to
get
it.
on.
It doesn't bother me anymore. Even when they say, I'm sorry, after you waited 2 hours, your flight is canceled. It's like, okay, well,
It's because you have good
whatever.
movies on your iPad.
No, it sucks. It sucks, but
It
like you
sucks.
get used to it. If you travel a lot,
You just get used to it.
yeah, it's
I was
like
gonna say you
part of
gotta make the
part
best
deal.
out of it.
Yeah.
Holly, are
It's
you
part of
a spontaneous traveler or are you a planner? Like how far in
I'm a
advance?
mix.
Oh.
I'm an opportunistic traveler. Like when an opportunity presents itself, that will be
She
maybe the
won't say
impetus
no.
for my
I
next
like that.
trip.
June 13th, Fresh Fest, Miami.
Fresh
spot.
Fest,
Miami
Fresh
is
I love
your-
it. I love
Miami
it.
is
You
your day
planted
over.
this seed.
So hold on.
Mhm.
What is, aside from Fresh Fest, what is your
Mhm.
next travel? Do you have something set up? You were just in Mexico. What's coming up?
Yeah. So florally related, going to Dallas for Next Gen, obviously. I actually just received exciting news that I will be part of the design team for the First Ladies Luncheon in Washington, D.C. So that I need to book.
Nice.
So that's exciting.
Renee was just on talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be working with her and
That's
Kelly
so
Shore
cool.
and the people. I'm excited for it. I went to the Rose Bowl back in, between
that's
Christmas
cool.
and New
Right.
Year's and helped
That
with
was when I
that.
asked you to come on because I wanted to hear about that
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Oh, that was wild. So much work. It's just amazing to watch the transformation of the floats and everything that goes
Were
into it. It
you
was super
there
cool.
working, or were you just
Yeah,
observing?
I
So you
was. I
worked.
worked on a float called One Legacy, and it was this float that it was all about like organ donation. So a lot of the volunteers that were alongside me had either had a loved one who had been the recipient of an organ, or who had passed on and donated their organs, or the volunteer had actually donated an organ. So lots of heartfelt stories, and
Volunteers.
the floral design team was 4 people. And then, just so much goes into it, all the hard goods prep and the flower prep. Yeah, but it was super smooth. It was
And how many
excellent.
days? How many days did you guys bring that float to life?
I feel like it was maybe 4 or 5. I think it was 5 days, but we were there a total of a week. Yeah, because like on the final day, we were mostly done, and that was like judging, final touches, and then
The
on
detail
the
is
first.
crazy
It's
what they
crazy.
do. The
wild.
detail, like you hear the narrators like during the parade, and they'll say each little petal is glued to like make it look like it was painted on, but it's really flower petals. It's like
Think of
not the
that-
whole flower.
Think of
It's
like
like they
floral
take the flowers
DeVilles,
apart.
but times giant floats.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So we have Fleur de Ville that happens in Chicago near me. And it's so cool. I know that you guys support that heavily. And actually, when I was in Scotland is when
Tina
I found out
Barkley.
about it. Yes, yes. I was in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and I caught the last day of this Fleur de Ville, and I was like, "What is this? This is so cool!" And I just like flew through, took pictures, and then when I was in charge of the Great Lakes Floral Expo last year, I reached out to them and I was like, "Hey, would you be able to would you want to partner or do anything with this?" I was just trying to get ideas of who might participate, and then that opened up a conversation between us, and then we have one in Chicago. And so I've been visiting the last couple of years. I make a little fun day of it. When we talk about balance and work-life play, my mom and I will leave like after work on Tuesday. We'll go down. We usually catch a Second City comedy show, get a good laugh.
Nice.
I would love
And
to
then
do
the
that.
next
That's on my
morning-
bucket list.
That's
I
on
want to
my
go
bucket
there.
list too.
Oh, come do it. You guys, you should come right around when they do the Fleur de Ville if you can.
That's
It's
When
When
is
it's right
is-
before Mother's Day, which is
Oh,
ridiculous. It's like, a week and a half before.
Tough
So
times.
I actually ate my words right after I said that. Yeah.
No, so we have
but it-
Fleur de Villes that they're
Here,
prepping,
you're there.
getting ready. That starts in 2 weeks here.
So Second
Yeah.
City is where all like the real comedians go to. It's like the mecca
Yes.
for the comedians.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's like the
and, all the
pre-SNL.
SNL, all the SNL people start either from Second City or the one in LA, like the comedy laugh or whatever, something laugh. Yeah. So
Yeah.
The Laugh Factory.
The Laugh Factory. Yeah. But Second City, I would love to go to.
I'd
Mike,
love-
that's on our bucket list.
Yeah, I want to go there.
It's super fun. I would highly recommend it. It's a good time.
Next time I go to Kennecott's, I'm going to see if we can go over there.
Do it. Yeah, that's
That'd
great.
be cool.
Yeah. We have a Kennecott here too, so they're one of my wholesalers. And I know you guys are.
Yeah,
Tight
they're
with them,
good
so.
people. They're good people up there.
Mhm.
So
We had the Red Kennecott here in the office on the podcast very recently.
two episodes ago.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Was that one
Aw.
of the ones you caught up on in Mexico?
No, Mike, before you were in the room, I was saying I had downloaded some of you guys' podcasts to listen to while I was driving around in Mexico. But no, that one wasn't one of them.
No, that one came out 2 weeks ago. So Holly, yeah, Fern was saying, what about after all non-floral related? Any fun travel? Do you have any plan?
Is there
Yeah,
somewhere you
nothing.
haven't been to yet? Tell us.
So many places. That saying, like I haven't been everywhere, but it's on my list. That little joke, that's kind of me. I'm trying to plan a summer trip. I would like to go perhaps to Madeira, which is an island off of Portugal, or maybe Albania. Those are two places I'm kind of thinking about. But again, opportunistic traveler. I'm keeping my options open. One of our next gen friends just shared something about a floral exhibit that's happening in London, and I was like, "Ooh, maybe I fly from DC to London and then come home." Because DC is a big airport too.
Yeah.
Lots of flights to London. We flew to London on a double decker.
Really?
Oh my gosh, how cool!
On our way to Budapest.
Do the double deckers still have like a little bar?
Listen, that plane, you don't even feel it moving. It's
that big.
Crazy. And they have 2 gates, one for the upstairs, one for the downstairs. And it's very well organized. But
I flew a double decker on my way Lufthansa from Germany, and it was amazing. I was like, this is so cool.
I don't think I've ever been on a double decker.
If you
Me
go to
either, Fern.
on the end of the street here,
No?
at
Okay.
4 o'clock.
We'll go take a double decker.
At 4 o'clock
you
is when
see
the
it.
Lufthansa plane takes off.
Yeah.
At 4
Yeah.
p.m.
Yeah.
If you go to the end of the runway, you watch this plane. It's so big, and it's going down the runway, and it seems like it's going really slow, but it takes off, and like it's so big, it appears to be going slow. It's
huge.
It goes up in
it's
the air.
huge. I've seen the plane there at the end of
It's
the runway.
huge.
It's huge.
And if you have the ability, like if you have to fly through Lufthansa, I would totally recommend it. It's amazing. They are so like
Thank you
customer
for
service.
flying
British Air did a
Lufthansa.
pretty good job.
I mean, the thing is that I don't know. I
This has been brought to you by
sponsored by
British Air.
And now
Lufthansa.
a word from our sponsors.
Lufthansa.
That's so fun.
So yeah. Oh, I'm so excited.
You
for
know what, Holly? I've been to Ecuador 1,000 times, and I never went to the Galapagos.
Oh.
And this is
I
the
did
year
it.
it's going to happen.
Nice.
Do it. It's amazing. Absolutely
Yeah,
incredible.
but so the team says you kind of have to go April, May.
Yeah.
They say that's the best time to go. That's when like the most animals are out and
You
that.
go right after Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Before you go, well,
Meaning this year and this
In
from
this-
this 12 months from now.
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I mean this year.
Perfect. Then I'm on that.
Yeah.
Then we'll go together too.
Oh
that's
no,
on
it was
my
really
bucket list.
cool.
So, are you a counter? Have you counted all the countries you've been to?
I have a rough estimate. I used to be active in a group called Couch Surfing. That's how I traveled a lot. And I say it's travelers helping travelers. So you go and stay with someone and they host you. And I really loved it for kind of the cultural exchange aspect. But on that website, you could click all the countries you've been to. And so I'm in the 40s, probably 45 or
Nice.
so,
Somebody just
Yeah.
somebody
How
just
many
did.
countries is there, Joelle?
100 plus,
Yeah.
like 100.
Close to
There's
300,
a young
right?
woman who
There's
just she just
300
broke it.
something.
She's the
300
youngest
something?
person to have visited every country. It was like in the news last week.
195, sorry.
195 countries, and you've been to 40. That's
Plus
pretty
they have the
impressive.
Bronx.
And the Bronx.
Yeah. So you guys asked about non-floral related, and right before we started talking, I was just sending my information for this tour I'm going to do with my mom to Bhutan, if you've ever heard of that country.
Mhm.
It touches Nepal. And so we're going to go in November together.
That's so awesome.
That's where the golden child came from.
Nepal.
Yeah. You ever
I
seen the
will
movie?
pudge you. Pudge
No, I've
me.
not seen it.
I want the knife.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
That's
Finally.
one movie.
Yes.
One movie Joel has finally
It's
seen.
one of my
yes.
all-time favorite movies is The Golden Child with Eddie
That's
Murphy.
actually one of my favorite.
I will pudge you.
I
should
recommend
be
it on your
pudged.
next flight that you download The Golden Child.
I'm jotting it down right now.
Very interesting.
So yeah, I think this lady from Detroit, from Grosse Pointe, she has, but I can't find the article, but I'll find it and I'll share it with you, because it was recently, like last week. It was the youngest girl.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Wow.
countries.
Yeah.
Well,
Holly-
so yeah.
No, go. Ladies first.
No, I was going to say there's someone I follow and she was, I think, trying to break the record. She broke the record of visiting them in the shortest amount of time. And she also was young, but it just, sometimes when you're just doing something like that, you don't really get to taste or feel the experience. You're just
Exactly. Yeah.
No, you're
Oh,
doing it for you're doing it for the achievement.
I had
of
a
that.
friend, who
Yeah.
told me, because I really had that goal for the kids, and I just said I wanted to have that, and I started, planning it out, and you get obsessed about it, and then it's like, okay, this is not me enjoying it. Like, he had recommended start, because of where I'm geographically located, start with Central and South America, and then move on like that, and obviously the Caribbean. But I got obsessed with it. Like, I was like, okay, then I have to do this, and this is how much I have to save, and you can't live like that. You should. I like your opportune, like, moments, like just spontaneous.
Something comes up. So Barbie's like that. Barbie loves to spontaneous. She doesn't want to make any plans, and I'm like, dude, I need to plan. I need to plan.
Well,
You're driving
we need
me
to
insane.
plan a lot. Yeah.
Did we miss
That's the mix.
something? Did we miss something that you wanted to touch on?
I want to let you know that Carl from Green Park is sending his son
To next gen.
to Next Gen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Go, Carl. That is
is-
gonna be one hell of an experience.
Yeah, he's gonna do great. We got Carson's phone number. I told Casey and Ryan and Mimi to.
Carson's a good kid. That'll be
Reach out.
good.
can't wait to meet him.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the questions?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Do you want somebody else want to do it since Ryan's on here?
No, dude.
No.
Look, you're ready. I
Mimi
like
has
it.
the honor.
Okay. First off, what is the best sandwich in your opinion?
BLT.
Mhm.
Just go straight forward. I'm kind of a veggie girl, but that's what came to mind, and I like some bacon, so.
Of course, you're a next gener. Everybody in next gen loves the bacon.
Cam
Yep,
is
you
still
know.
My
talking
grandson
about bacon.
loves bacon.
Yeah.
JJ,
Who doesn't
oh,
love
man.
bacon? Bacon's perfect.
What is your favorite flower at the time?
I love pincushion protea. I'm a protea girl. Yeah, Rescinda's brothers in Australia. The two of
There you
those
go.
solidified that for me.
What would you say is the most overrated flower?
Baby's breath. It's come back with a vengeance.
I know.
People love it. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I just can't handle it. It rips apart in my cooler.
What would be the underrated flower?
Carnations. They just last so
Number
long
one
and they have
answer.
so many colors.
Okay, we know it's not monarch butterflies, but what is the scariest animal to you?
And maybe not, but what just came to my mind was a squirrel. And not the flying variety.
No,
I love
not my
squirrels.
flying squirrels.
The flying
No,
squirrel.
I love
She's
squirrels.
terrified.
I love squirrels.
It just
Those
reminded
things
me of
shouldn't be flying.
when I was in college, they would be running around and they're kind of like unpredictable. And you don't know if they're going to run at you or if they're going to go a different direction.
Squirrel.
But no,
They stretch their skin.
Yeah.
They stretch their skin out and it becomes wings.
And they fly. We were talking about flying squirrels because
But they don't really fly. They just
So-
drop.
They're
slowly.
like
They're
it's a glide.
gliders. They're gliders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Squirrels are my spirit animal. I'm a saver.
I love
Squirrel.
squirrels.
I love squirrels.
They're actually not terrifying. They're adorable.
But they are little
Dark.
jerks. Like in DC,
Dark.
We
well,
have black ones at the lake.
we have white ones
Black
in Miami
ones.
Springs.
Yeah.
We have white ones, and then people post on Facebook all the time, like, who spotted them. And there's two of them that live right on the corner of my sister's house. So when I walk my dogs, I'm like super excited to take this pictures
Leave
of the
some
white
carrots for them. They like carrots.
Oh, look at that! I'm gonna do that tonight. Okay. What is your go-to way to relax?
I love to dance, listen to music.
Like at home, having a drink in hand, or at a lounge, at a bar, or
You
either
do a
way,
lot of
anyway.
like live performances, right? Like you like to go to live.
I definitely love to go listen to live music. Yeah, just one of my favorite musicians, her name is May Earlywine. And during COVID, she did something called Mondays with May on Facebook. And she still does it once a month. But when I like catch that, it's my favorite way to relax. It's like the best, my luckiest Monday night is if I tune in and she's doing that. So just her
Nice.
music, yeah, a little relaxer and just jive.
If you could have lunch with a TV, movie, fictional character, or nonfiction, who would it be?
Oh, wow. That one kind of has me stumped.
Could be
I feel like I wanna
anybody.
get back
Could be
to it.
somebody from history. Could
Yeah,
be anybody.
Anybody.
Oh, a TV character.
Could be that singer.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna, well, I kind of know her already, so that's great. Can I just do it with the cast of Friends? Can I just
Oh
join them
my
in the coffee
gosh.
shop? That would be kind of ideal.
You know what?
What would be your coffee order to sit down with the cast of Friends?
I'm a latte girl, and if they have a cardamom latte, I would be in high heaven.
Oh, fancy. I
What's
like
a cardamom? What is that?
Cardamom is like almost like
A
cinnamon.
spice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I like cinnamon.
a warm spice. Yeah,
I know what it is, but what would be your superpower?
I would love to fly.
Like a squirrel.
Exactly, I was
Without
like with the squirrels.
Without having to go through security.
This is the squirrel episode.
It is. Yeah. Fly, or maybe teleportation, get from one place to another real fast.
That is cool.
What are we eating on Sunday night? What's your favorite drunk food?
Huh. Oh, I love any sort of vegetable curry. Give it to me.
Ooh.
I
Red. Like which was your favorite curry?
mean, maybe green or yellow
Green?
come to mind a little bit more than red, but
I like
I'll
red.
take them all. Just
I
slow
love
cooked
Red is
veggies.
the
with
red is the
rice.
spicy one though.
I love them all.
I love spice though, so maybe I should expand.
Gotta expand.
And if you could suggest, I don't like to ask the other question, but I guess I'll just do it. What kind of flowers would you like at your funeral?
Oh, colorful,
Yeah.
cheerful. If it was sunflower season, maybe some sunflowers.
Nice.
Color pop.
And the last one, first, can you suggest anybody for the podcast?
Oh, yeah, give me some time, but
Yeah.
I definitely
You
have
can
lots of
email me.
people.
You can email us. No,
Yeah.
no pressure on that.
Mhm.
Holly, if someone wants to travel the world, maybe they want to learn about working with family and, being as successful with it as your family is, or maybe they just, they want to talk about music and a couple of drinks. How can they reach out to you?
So my Instagram is at Traveling with Joy. That's a great way to find me. And our flower shop is at Kennedy Floral. And on Facebook, it's Kennedy's Flowers and Gifts. So those are great ways to reach out. And then Holly at kennedyfloral.com for my email.
There you go. There you go. If you can't get a hold of Holly, you guys are missing the boat. She gave you everything.
Thank
Good
you so
deal.
much, Holly. Can't wait to see you and can't wait to put your tricks to practice when
I
we
like it.
when we
I
learn
like
them
it.
this week.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me on. So good to see you guys and can't wait to see you in Dallas.
Yes, have a great
Or
time
at Fresh
with the
Fest.
fatties. No, you are coming for Fresh Fest. We're going to get you down here. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another amazing episode of Two Fat Guys Talking Flowers, where we're always going to give you the good, the good, the good. We didn't ask you about any. We didn't ask you about any bad, Holly, but it's okay. I'll still love you. About flowers, Joelle, Mimi, myself, Mike, our awesome guest, Holly Haveman. Check her out at Next Gen, guys. Have a great day. Thank you for listening.